Dear students, welcome to UGC's EPG Pathashala on Human Rights and Duties. My name is Professor YSR Murthy. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Human Rights Studies, OP Jindal Global Universities. In the paper on National Mechanisms for Protection and Enforcement of Human Rights, we are going to look at the National Commission for Minorities. Earlier on, we have seen the National Human Rights Protection System, the role of executive, legislative, judiciary, and also we have seen the Paris Principles, the National Human Rights Commission, the National Commission for Women, the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, and the National Commission for Scheduled Tribe. In fact, if you see the international human rights law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as the subsequent conventions which have been adopted under the United Nations General Assembly, you will find that non-discrimination in the enjoyment of rights is one of the cornerstones, particularly non-discrimination based on religion, race, gender, and other certain prohibited grounds. And in the context of two world wars, it was also seen how the protracted violations of minority rights can often lead to population displacements, refugee flows across national borders, and lead to what are potentially described as a humanitarian crisis, humanitarian emergencies. And if you look at the national context also, the Constitution of India has several references to protection of the rights of minorities. So this gives rise to a question as to who is a minority and what is the definition of a minority and what are the minority rights and what mechanisms are needed for protection of these rights and what are their functions, powers, and how do they perform or how did they perform over the years. So these are some of the things which we will be exploring in this current lecture. Before we take up further, so we will briefly discuss the historical context and the efforts to put in place an institutional framework for the protection of minority rights in India. First, let us take up what are the constitutional rights and safeguards provided to the minorities in India. For various religious and linguistic minorities, Constitution has several provisions, though the Constitution of India does not define the word minority and only refers to minorities and speaks of those based on religion or language. The rights of the minorities have been spelt out in the Constitution in some detail. They can be distinguished between common rights which every citizen has, and there are some special rights which only the minority community members alone can enjoy. So the rights which fall in the common domain, as I said, are those which are applicable to all the citizens of our country, and the rights which fall in the separate domain are those which are applicable to the minorities alone, and these are reserved to protect their identity. The distinction between common domain and separate domain and their combination have been well kept and protected in the Constitution. The preamble to the Constitution declares the state to be secular, and this is a special relevance for the religious minorities. Equally relevant for them is the declaration of the Constitution in its preamble that all citizens of India are to be secured liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, and equality of status and of opportunity. If you look at the directive principles of state policy which are contained in the part 4 of the Indian Constitution, which are non-justiciable, they include the following provisions which have significant implications for the minorities. There is a reference to obligation of the state to endeavor to eliminate inequalities in status, facilities and opportunities amongst individuals and groups of people residing in different areas or engaged in different vocations under Article 38(2). And there is an obligation of the state to promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people under Article 46. If you look at the fundamental duties which are mentioned in Part 4A of the Constitution, you will find several provisions which have relevance to the minorities. They of course apply to all citizens, including those belonging to minorities. In fact, Article 51A says, citizens have a duty to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities. And citizens have a duty to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now, let us take up fundamental rights in Part 3 of the Constitution, and these are common domain and which are available to all citizens. And in Part 3 of the Constitution, which deals with fundamental rights, there are of course certain rights which are fall under the common domain, and the rights which fall under the separate domain which only members of the minority community alone can enjoy. In the common domain, there are certain fundamental rights and freedoms are covered. For instance, people's right to equality before the law and equal protection of the laws under Article 14. And then there is a prohibition of discrimination against citizens on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth under Article 15(1) and 15(2). State has the authority to make any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens under Article 15(4). This has reference to SCs, STs and minorities. Citizens have a right to equality of opportunity in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state, and prohibition in this regard of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth as provided in the Article 16(1) and 16(2) of the Constitution. State has the authority to make any provision for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class of citizens which, in the opinion of the state, is not adequately represented in the services under the state under Article 16(4). People's freedom of conscience and right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion, subject to public order, morality and other fundamental rights is enshrined under Article 25(1). The right of every religious denomination or any section thereof subject to public order, morality and health to establish and maintain institutions for religious and charitable purposes, manage its own affairs in matters of religion, and own and acquire movable and immovable property and administer it in accordance with law as mentioned in Article 26. There is a prohibition against compelling any person to pay taxes for promotion of any particular religion under Article 27. People's freedom as to attendance at religious instruction or religious worship in educational institutions wholly maintained, recognized or aided by the state is mentioned in Article 28. Now, let us look at the separate domain of minority rights under the Chapter 3, which fall under the category of separate domain. These are enjoyed only by persons belonging to minorities. A. Right of any section of the citizens to conserve its distinct language, script or culture is mentioned in the Article 29(1). Restriction on denial of admission to any citizen to any educational institution maintained or aided by the state on grounds only of religion, race, caste, language or any of them is mentioned in Article 29(2) of the Constitution. The rights of religious and linguistic minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice is asserted in Article 30. The freedom of minority managed educational institutions from discrimination in the matter of receiving aid from the state is asserted in Article 32. The special provision relating to languages spoken by a section of the population of any state is enshrined in Article 347. The provision for facilities for instruction in mother tongue at primary stage is highlighted in Article 350A. The provision for special officer for linguistic minorities and his duties is highlighted in Article 350B. The Sikh community's right of wearing and carrying of kripans is highlighted in Article 25. Now, let us take up the National Commission for Minorities. At the end of this module, you will appreciate the background to the creation of National Commission for Minority in India from the time of framing of the Constitution till the time it was granted a statutory status. Understand the nature, functions, duties and powers of this unique body. Now, as I said, Constitution of India in its preamble proclaims that the country shall be secular, and the demography of the population in terms of religion, if you see, Hindus are in a majority, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists and Zoroastrians are considered to be minorities. Of course, Jain community has been added recently. So, India has seen an amalgamation of all religions coexisting together. It has tremendous linguistic, religious and ethnic diversity. It is often called a subcontinent. It has been described as a confederation of minorities. The constitutional and legal safeguards for protecting the rights and interests of minority are the most important principles of governance. The National Commission for Minority monitors enforcement of legal and constitutional safeguards provided to religious minorities in India. So, how did this body come into being? This can be traced to the pre-independence days. Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru Committee of 1945 proposed the establishment at the center and in each of the provinces an independent minorities commission. And what are the functions assigned to that commission? It was proposed that this commission shall keep a constant watch over the interests of minority communities, and it shall call for information as the commission may consider necessary for discharging its functions, and review periodically the policy pursued by the legislature and the executive. After the lapse of the SAPRU committee, the creation of a body for protecting the rights of minorities was discussed in detail in the Constituent Assembly of India. The questionnaire on minority rights, drafted by K.M. Munshi, contained a question about setting up of machinery to supervise the efficacy of safeguards provided to minorities. Subsequently, it was taken up by the subcommittee. Mr. Khandekar proposed the establishment of a minority commission whose findings should be mandatory on government. Mr. Anthony suggested a minority commission with the right to make a report only. However, both these proposals were defeated by majority vote in the subcommittee. Dr. Ambedkar's proposal for the appointment of an independent officer by the president at the center and by the governors in the provinces to report to the union and provincial legislatures about the working of the constitutional and other legal safeguards provided to minorities was accepted, but dropped before the final stage of the adoption of the Constitution. Thus, we see, even though Indian Constituent Assembly discussed the creation of a mechanism for safeguarding the rights of minorities, it did not become a reality before 1978. Firstly, the idea of a National Commission for Minorities was conceived in 1960 with the creation of a one-man minority commission at Lucknow. In 1971, Bihar set up multi-member minority commission. After UP and Bihar, the government of Gujarat created a state minorities high-powered committee in the year 1977. Minorities in independent India are provided certain safeguards in the Constitution, which I mentioned earlier on, but in spite of that, there was a general sense of dissatisfaction about the effective enforcement of those safeguards. What are the challenges faced by the minorities? There is a need to come out of the feeling of discrimination, constant threat to their life and property, alleged failure of the government in providing them protection during critical situations like communal riots. In fact, the Ministry of Home Affairs moved a resolution in the Parliament despite the safeguards provided in the Constitution and the laws in force. That MHA resolution says there persists among the minorities a feeling of inequality and discrimination. In order to preserve secular traditions and to promote national integration, the Government of India attaches the highest importance to the enforcement of the safeguards provided for the minorities and is of the firm view that effective institutional arrangements are urgently required for the enforcement and implementation of all the safeguards provided for the minorities in the Constitution, in the central and state laws, and in the government policies and administrative schemes enunciated from time to time. The Government of India has therefore resolved to set up a Minorities Commission to safeguard the interests of the minorities, whether based on religion or language. While moving a resolution, the Government of India decided to set up a Central Minority Commission. So, it was created in 1978 and it was attached to the Ministry of Home Affairs. In 1984, it was moved to the Ministry of Social Welfare, now known as Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It was supposed to monitor the enforcement and implementation of the constitutional and legal safeguards provided both to the religious and linguistic minorities. After the amendment in the resolution in the year 1988, the Minority Commission was only concerned with the rights of the religious minorities. The Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities was appointed under Article 350B. Since the creation of the Ministry of Minority Affairs in the year 2006, the National Commission for Minorities has been placed under it. Of course, when you see the various developments, there have been attempts to confer constitutional status to the Minority Commission. 46th Constitutional Amendment Bill 1978 ended up in a failure. The government showed its sincerity with regard to Minority Commission. While introducing this amendment bill in the Lok Sabha, the government in the statement of objects and reasons said, and I quote, "The government are of the view that appointment of a commission to safeguard the interests of all minorities, whether based on religion or language, would provide a more satisfactory institutional arrangement for achieving the desired objective." A Minority Commission was therefore set up by an executive order. Such a commission would, if set up in pursuance of constitutional provisions, inspire greater confidence among the minorities. The purpose of the bill was to abolish the office of the Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities was provided. It was proposed to add Article 338A to make room for a constitutionally sanctioned Minorities Commission. The bill regrettably lapsed due to lack of interest showed by the members of the ruling coalition at that point of time. Again, there was one more failed attempt of 51st Amendment Bill in the year 1979. This bill was extensively debated in the Lok Sabha, but it failed to get the required support and could not be passed. Thus, the government failed in its attempt to grant the constitutional status to the National Commission for Minorities. The Morarji Desai government demonstrated political will to create a body like Minority Commission, which is indeed laudable. What are the statutory provisions under the National Commission for Minorities Act? This National Commission for Minorities Bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha on 4th May 1992. But if you look at the statement of objects and reasons of the bill, it proclaimed, I quote, "The Minority Commission with a statutory status would infuse confidence among the minorities about the working and effectiveness of the Commission. It would also carry more weight with the state governments and union territory administrations and the ministries or departments and other organizations of the central government." The Commission got statutory status with the enactment of the the National Commission for Minority Act 1992. This act is divided into a number of chapters. Chapter 1 deals with the title, extent and definitional aspects. Chapter 2 deals with the composition of the commission, term of office, conditions of service of chairperson and members, procedure for removal of chairperson and members, salaries and allowances of its employees and officers. Chapter 3 deals with the powers and functions of the commission, while chapter 4 deals with the finance, accounts and audit. Chapter 5 describes various miscellaneous matters, and chapter 7 the communities covered under the mandate of the commission. If you look at this act, section 2C defines minority. It means a community notified as such by the central government. All functions of the commission as laid down in section 9(1) of the National Commission for Minority Act are related to the 6 notified communities. Initially, it was 5. They are Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Zoroastrians or Parsis. Later on, through a notification, Jain community was added to the list of 5 communities in the year 2014. The National Commission for Minorities had recommended to grant minority status to Hindus in 5 states and 1 union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Punjab and Lakshadweep, which is a union territory, by virtue of their numbers in these states and UT. What is the composition of this commission? It consists of a chairperson, a vice chairperson and 5 members to be nominated by the central government, provided that 5 members including the chairperson shall be from amongst the minority communities. The function and powers of this commission are defined under chapter 3, section 9 of the National Commission for Minority Act. It is required to evaluate the progress of the development of minorities under the union and states. It is required to monitor the working of the safeguards provided in the constitution and in laws enacted by the parliament and state legislatures. It is required to make recommendations for the effective implementation of safeguards for the protection of the interests of minorities by central government or state government. The National Commission for Minorities is required to look into specific complaints regarding deprivation of rights and safeguards of the minorities and take up such matters with the appropriate authorities. NCM is required to cause studies to be undertaken into problems arising out of any discrimination against minorities and recommend measures for their removal. The National Commission for Minorities shall conduct studies, research and analysis on the issues relating to socio-economic and educational development of minorities and suggest appropriate measures in respect of any minority to be undertaken by the central government or the state governments. Make periodical or special reports to the central government on any matter pertaining to minorities and on particular difficulties confronted by them and any other matter which may be referred to it by the central government. the central government is required to place the recommendations for the effective implementation of safeguards before each House of Parliament, along with a memorandum of action taken. In case it is not accepting any recommendation, it is required to give reasons thereof. A similar role has also been provided for state governments, and they are also supposed to review these recommendations if it concerns the state government, and then the commission NCM is supposed to forward that recommendation to the concerned state, and then the concerned state is required to place it before the state legislature again with a action taken report, or in case it is not accepting any recommendation, give reasons for non-acceptance of the recommendations. In fact, it is a wonderful mechanism for securing accountability of the executive and also for protecting the rights of minorities. The National Commission for Minorities, while performing certain functions like evaluation, like monitoring, like individual complaints, has all the powers of a civil court trying a suit, and in particular it has powers to summon and enforce the attendance of any person from any part of India and examining him on oath. It can require the discovery and production of any document, receive evidence on affidavit, requisition, any public record or copy thereof from any court or office. It can issue commissions for the examinations of witnesses and documents. So, you find that certain functions have been entrusted to the National Commission for Minorities, and it has also been given certain powers to discharge those functions in an effective manner. In conclusion, one can trace the root of the National Commission for Minority to our freedom struggle. The leading players of our freedom struggle were convinced that an additional institutional arrangement was necessary in independent India. Mind you, remember the partition, communal riots related to partition. So, this mechanism was required to allay the fears of minorities, and for getting enforcement of constitutional safeguards, legal safeguards. So, if you see the constitutional provisions, rights which have been guaranteed by the Constituent Assembly remained also unrealized for persons belonging to minorities. So, the demand for institutional arrangement for ensuring the effective implementation of the safeguards to minorities remained a major issue during the Constituent Assembly debates even after the partition of India. So, this demand remained unfulfilled till the year 1978, when the government created a Central Minorities Commission by a resolution. The National Commission for Minority Act provided it a statutory status. During the period 1978 to 1992, the government made some half-hearted abortive attempts to accord a constitutional status to the National Commission for Minorities. This National Commission for Minority Act 1992 defines minority as a community notified as such by the central government. It includes Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis and Jains. The Commission had recommended to grant minority status to Hindus living in 5 states and 1 unit territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Punjab, Lakshadweep. It consists of a chairperson, a vice chairperson and 5 members to be nominated by the central government. It has a range of functions which have been described in the National Commission for Minorities Act, which include evaluating, monitoring the constitutional legal safeguards, redressing individual complaints, undertaking research studies, and so on and so forth. Thank you.